Morning. Monday morning, it's time for my weekly conversation about talent development. This is episode 4 of the 7 deadly sins of talent development. This week I'm talking about comfort. So comfort is a talent killer. Comfort destroys drive, it destroys aspiration, it destroys hunger, destroys passion. So what am I talking about? Well, it's a real counterintuitive thing because people, spend most of their lives, particularly in our society, trying to make things better for their children than they had. You hear the old phrases, don't you? When I were at lad, I used to get up 2 hours before I went to bed and pay the miller for the privilege of working. Famous Monty Python sketch. In that, it was. We always talk about, we had it harder in our day, and we want to try and make things better for our children. So we want to, give them the things that we didn't have. And we've become an increasingly consumer-driven society. So children are often given lots of things that they wouldn't otherwise have got when we were kids. And one of the things that we try and do as well is we try and make them more comfortable. So I've seen this emerging, particularly in our society, where if you look at quite a lot of training environments, quite a lot of academies, a lot of sports venues, clubs, etc., constantly trying to improve the facilities. And the assumption is that, if we have better facilities, if we have better provision, if we make the environment much more comfortable for the athletes, that they'll develop better. They'll be able to have a better opportunity. They'll be able to move forward better. And the challenge with this is that it actually works counterintuitively enough. It works against what we're trying to do when we're looking at talent development. Talent development actually needs discomfort. It needs environments that are a little bit grubby, a little bit basic. When Daniel Coyle, when he was writing the talent code and he went around and looked at what he called talent hotbeds, he identified that actually quite a lot of the places that are producing some of the world's best are pretty basic. I'll probably follow this up with a post or a link to a video of Usain Bolt training, where he trains to this day, which is a patch of grass, uneven patch of grass, doing his sprint training on that uneven surface, and very, really, really basic. What basic facilities and that kind of fairly robust environment does is it sort of says to kids that it creates a kind of like a Spartan culture. And for those of you who've read your Greek history, we know that the Spartans were a particular nation state within Greece that prided itself on its on the warriors that it created from its children, and they had some of those children a very harsh upbringing. I'm not saying that's what we need to do necessarily. However, what I'm saying is that one of the things that they did do was, as a culture, they believed in hardship, and they believed in difficulty, and they believed in challenge as a means to create a warrior race that was successful in various forms of battle. Now, we're not necessarily trying to create warriors, but we are trying to create young people with drive. We are trying to create young people with aspiration, young people with a commitment and a dedication. And if it's too easy, if it's too comfortable, they develop a sense of entitlement, a sense of I've made it, a sense of I'm here. and then they don't understand that it's about work. And the environment can either create a culture or a philosophy, ethos around work, dedication, commitment, or it can create an environment and an ethos that sort of spells out that it's about comfort and things being on tap and easy. I mean, one of the things that the All Blacks are very committed to, and this was a particular aspect of their philosophy, which I think is very embedded within the indigenous Maori culture, was the idea that you sweep the sheds or you sweep the changing rooms, and it's this philosophy again, or ethos, that no one's too big, even if you've made it as an international. No one's too big or too clever or too too much of a superstar to expect somebody else to sweep the changing rooms after they finish playing, so they do it themselves. And if the players all walk off, or the players don't do that, then the captain does it. And they've got a very strong belief in having that kind of ethos, because they know that it drives a sense of humility and a sense of, the job isn't finished. There's always more to do. There's always more work to be done, and there's a sense of having to make a contribution. Those things are really, really important. Those things, that ethos, that philosophy, that sort of Spartan philosophy is really, really important in terms of developing young people with talent. So the question I want to pose to everybody out there is, are we making things too comfortable? Are we always trying to make it too easy? We're trying to find better facilities, better clubs, places where it'll feel good, right? Or should we be looking for places that are gritty, places where it's real, places where children understand that you've got to earn every scrap of your ability, earn every scrap of your skill to be able to move to the next level, to the next level, to the next level, and very much understanding that getting to that point involves a tireless dedication to commitment. I listened to a really interesting interview by a guy called Gary Vaynerchuk. He's a guy who's an online entrepreneur who does quite a lot of stuff in the online business world, and he was having a conversation with a young 20-something who'd asked him a question about what it would take to become a millionaire, and he absolutely flew at her and gave her this terrible kind of dressing down, I suppose, which was a little bit brutal. But his point was that there's a generation that's expecting to become a millionaire just because it can happen for you, and it can happen overnight. And he said, you've got to fall in love with the process. You've got to fall in love with the doing, fall in love with the work, the effort, the process of making yourself that bit better every single day, every single week. And if we create environments where, you can just chill out and relax and spend time on your iPad or you're watching TV or on your computer or whatever it is, or in front of your screens, then are we creating that environment where actually you've got to do that? So I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm battling with this all the time, because it's pretty challenging with children right now, because they're bombarded with opportunities. I mean, one of the things I do is, just as a sense of what I'm trying to do with my kids, is something called earn your screen time. So it's unrealistic to expect that kids aren't going to get time in front of screens. That's fine, but they've got to earn it. They've got to earn it by doing the work, either the school work or going out and playing. I consider that play is the work of childhood. So go out and play, or go and do something that's going to make you better at something. Practice your keyboard, or do some drawing, or do something creative. And the other thing is, I'll switch all stuff off. I want them to be bored. It's okay for kids to be bored. Let's let them get bored, because that's when they get creative and start playing with things that they wouldn't otherwise play with. The millions of toys that they don't play with, or You know, they'll find something to do and they'll write stories, or you know, go out. And my little boy the other day found some bits of wood and got my hammers and nails and built himself a fort on the playpen. It's not the best looking thing in the world, and what have you, but you know, it's pretty good effort. Even created a door with a hinge and everything. Pretty good skills, actually. I'm quite impressed. Probably better than I could do. And that's because he was bored. Well, he wasn't bored, but he was just looking for something else to do. So I think we've got to make sure that we're creating environments where kids can't feel the comfort. Or if they do feel a sense of comfort, there's always that next little bit of stretch coming their way. Little bit of something else, a little bit of challenge that's going to stretch them into another dimension. The minute they feel comfortable, the minute they feel they've made it, the minute they feel that they're, you know, they've got somewhere, then, you know, the alarm bells have got to go off. Boom! Right, let's get into that now. Let's make a challenge. Let's create something else. Create that culture. So there you go. Comfort. Don't let it happen. Create the stretch. See you soon.